So you're using Claude Code, right? But did you know there's this hidden folder that most people don't even know exists? It's called .claude, and it's basically the secret control panel for the whole thing. It tells Claude what to remember, what it can do, and the rules it has to follow. In this explainer, we're going to open that panel up and see what it can really do.
And I'm going to throw a pretty bold idea out there. What if you're only using about 10% of what Claude Code is actually capable of? Seriously, for most people, that's the reality. The real magic isn't just in the chat window. It's in the deep, powerful customization that almost everyone is missing out on. So think about it like this. What if you could stop using a generic tool and start building a highly specialized assistant, one that's perfectly tuned to your projects, your team, and your specific way of working? Well, that's not just a nice idea. That's exactly what the .claude folder lets you do.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we'll explore that hidden control panel. Then, we'll dive into the project's brain, a file called claude.md. After that, we get to the fun part, building a custom toolbox with commands and skills. We'll touch on some advanced controls, and then we'll put it all together to see how it works in the real world.
Okay, first things first, let's pull back the curtain on this so-called hidden control panel. This is the absolute foundation for everything else we're going to talk about, so it's really important to nail this down.
So what is this thing? At its core, the .claude folder is just a directory inside your project, but it acts like the central nervous system. This is where you write the playbook, defining all the specific behaviors, commands, and guardrails for Claude, but just for this one project.
Now this is super important to get right off the bat. There are actually two of these Claude folders. The one inside your project, that's for the team. It's where all the shared rules and commands live, but you also have one in your home directory. And that one is all yours. It's your personal playbook filled with shortcuts and preferences that follow you no matter what project you're working on.
Okay, let's keep building on that. We're going to zoom in on what is hands down the most important file in that whole project folder, claude.md. You can really think of this as your project's brain.
And I absolutely love this analogy because it is perfect. Your first instinct might be to just stuff every single instruction into this file, but don't do that. Instead, think of it like an air traffic controller. Its job isn't to know everything, but to know exactly where to send every single request to get the right instructions.
So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, let's say Claude gets a task, something like draft a marketing email. The very first thing it does is look at claude.md. That file sees the word email, and instead of having the template right there, it just points the task to a different, more detailed file, maybe something like rules/emaildrafting.md. It's all about clean, efficient routing.
Okay, that's great for the team, but what about your personal stuff? That's where a little file called claude.local.md comes into play. It's totally optional, but it lets you add your own overrides. Maybe you like a certain tone or have a specific shortcut, and you can do it without messing up the main file that everyone on your team shares. Best part? It's usually ignored by Git, so your personal tweaks stay private.
All right, we've got the blueprint down. Now for the fun part, building out our custom toolbox. This is where we get into the active parts of the system, the commands and skills you can create to really start automating your work.
Let's start with commands. Honestly, these are the easiest to get your head around. They're just actions that you trigger manually. It's simple. You create a file in the /commands folder, and whatever you name that file, say processmeeting.md, becomes the / command you can type, like /processmeeting. It's direct, it's simple.
Now, skills are where things get a little magical. Unlike commands, they aren't just sitting there waiting for you. Skills are always watching. They're actively monitoring your conversations or files, and when they spot their magic words, phrases like action items or next steps, they just fire off automatically.
Let's put them side by side, because this distinction is key. A command waits for you to call it to start a process. A skill is always watching, and it calls itself when the context is right. One is for explicit control, the other is for smart reactive automation. Having both is what makes this system so powerful. And hey, here's a little power user trick for you. What if you've built this amazing skill, but you don't want it firing off all the time? You can actually add this one little line to its file. Disable auto invocation true. Just like that, it stops being automatic and turns into a tool that you can call manually whenever you want. You really get the best of both worlds.
Okay, time to level up. We're heading into the really advanced stuff now, rules and agents. This is where you go from just building tools to creating some seriously sophisticated logic and your own team of specialists.
So remember how we said Claude.md is the air traffic controller? Well, rules are like the super detailed flight plans for every single destination. Instead of cramming your main controller file with tons of complex instructions, you offload all that deep, task-specific logic into its own dedicated rule files. It keeps your whole system clean, modular, and way more powerful.
And then you've got agents. Think of these as your own little team of pre-built specialists. If you keep asking for the same kind of sub-agent over and over, you can just build a permanent one. You could create, say, a meeting analyst that's hard-coded to always use the Sonnet model, or a quick and dirty security auditor that always uses Haiku. You're basically building reusable experts for your team.
All right, so we've talked about all these different parts in theory. Now let's see how they all snap together to automate a real-world task. We're going to walk through what's called the meeting flow.
Okay, check out this beautiful chain reaction. It all starts when you run a simple /process meeting command. That command grabs the latest transcript. As it's reading, it sees the words action items, which automatically triggers an action tracker skill. That skill then identifies the next steps, which in turn can trigger another skill to draft a follow-up email, and the whole time, the exact format for that email is being dictated by your rules. It's this awesome automated cascade.
And you know, holding all of this together, there's one last layer of control, a file called settings.json. This is the governance layer. It's where you define what Claude is and is not allowed to do, like which commands it can run on your computer. You can also set up hooks here, actions that run before or after any tool gets used, giving you this incredible layer of oversight. So there you have it. That's the whole architecture from the ground up, from the foundational folders all the way to these advanced automated workflows. You literally have the blueprint now to transform Claude Code into an assistant that works exactly the way you want it to. So the only question left is, now that you have the keys to the control panel, what are you going to build first?